Today, we're diving into something that honestly sounds like sci-fi, but it's very real. The future of U.S. air power. To unpack the U.S. Air Force's Next Generation Air Dominance Program, NGAD, and specifically the new F-47 fighter, we'll cut the jargon, get straight to the facts.
And it's crucial. This isn't just about new planes. It's about how global power dynamics are shifting in the skies. It really touches the future of conflict itself. And, with so much information out there, getting the clear picture, it's tough.
That's a great point, because this story, it's got everything. Secret flights, huge budget arguments, even a president stepping in to name the plane. And this underlying race in the skies. Okay, let's unpack this. So the big news everyone was waiting for finally dropped. The USAF's sixth-gen fighter, the F-47, is going ahead, and Boeing got the nod. But the way it was announced, pretty unusual. March 21st, 2025, President Trump himself reveals Boeing won.
And he insisted on the name F-47.
Yeah, the quote was, "The generals picked a title, and it's a beautiful number. Quite something." And then he dropped another bombshell. An experimental version of the plane has secretly been flying for almost 5 years. Imagine that. Kept under wraps for 5 years.
It's a huge reveal. And it didn't happen in a vacuum, right? To give some context, 2024 was a really turbulent year for both the Air Force's NGAD and the Navy's version, the FAXX. Both programs were under intense budget pressure. So much so that the Air Force Secretary at the time, Frank Kendall, actually delayed the final decision on the manned fighter. Basically, he punted the decision to the incoming Trump administration.
Okay, so let's step back. Why NGAD? Why this massive push for a new generation? What was the wake-up call, especially regarding, say, China and Russia?
Well, the simple answer is that the era of easy air superiority, the kind the U.S. enjoyed in places like Iraq, the Balkans, Libya, that's over. Those campaigns showed how effective stealth and second suppression of enemy air defenses were, and adversaries watched closely, particularly China. They developed a direct counter, A2AD, anti-accessory denial.
Right. Anti-access, keep you out. Area denial, limit what you can do if you get in.
Exactly. And it's important to distinguish this from Russia's strategy. Russia talks more about active defense, which is different, more tactical. China's A2AD is strategic. It's designed to push forces like aircraft carriers and their planes further away. It targets the enablers tankers, AWACS-type planes, jammers. The goal is to make it impossible for current tactical fighters to penetrate deep. And it uses a complex, layered network. Fighters, advanced SAMs, even ballistic and hypersonic missiles, radars, ships. Plus, as the source notes, they're aiming for significant mass to overwhelm potential U.S. advantages in sheer numbers.
And the impact is, well, stark. The article points out these Chinese counter-air forces are now more widespread and complex than current U.S. forces in the region can really handle. There was that 2016 Defense Science Board study saying total air dominance across a whole battle space just isn't affordably achievable anymore against A2AD.
Yeah, I remember reading Air Vice Marshal Jim Beck described it as designed to push you away, to keep you out of the fight, and very, very difficult to overcome.
Yeah.
And those numbers, current A2AD ranges around 500 nautical miles, but predicted to reach 1,000 by 2030. That's huge.
It is. And that leads directly to this race we mentioned. There are rumors, pretty strong ones, about new Chinese sixth-generation fighters potentially accelerating that A2AD expansion. Andrew Hunter, who is the Air Force acquisition executive, admitted China could beat us to the punch on getting something operational. He did add, "I think we'll have the better capability, but we certainly have no time to lose." Which, highlights the urgency. Absolutely. And that urgency makes sense when you look at our current fleet, right? The F-35A's combat radius is about 590 nautical miles. The F-22A, maybe a bit less if it's flying fast. So they'd need refueling inside that 500-mile zone, potentially even closer, which makes the tankers, well, sitting ducks. It's just not sustainable against that threat.
Precisely. So the answer wasn't just a better fighter. It had to be a whole new concept, a system of systems for air dominance.
Yeah.
The idea is to project power much deeper into that A2AD zone using everything air, space, cyber assets. It combines stand-in forces, the ones that go deep into danger.
The F-47, presumably.
Right, with standoff capabilities attacking from further away. The goal isn't that old blanket air dominance, maybe more like achieving air superiority or even pulsed superiority, just where and when you need it.
And the heart of that stand-in force is this new manned platform, originally called PCA, Penetrating Counter-Air, essentially the F-22 replacement. Its job description is tough. Counter-air, hit enemy air defenses on the ground and in the air, take on enemy fighters, do CCA, coordinate other long-range strikes. And crucially, it has to get into that contested airspace where the F-22 and F-35 are now being pushed out.
And it wouldn't go alone. That's where the collaborative combat aircraft, the CCAs, come in. These unmanned jets are designed to fly up threat. They're like adjuncts, carrying extra sensors, extra weapons, adding mass. They extend the reach and capability of the manned fighter. Initially, the thinking was maybe 3 to 5 CCAs per manned jet, but now they're talking possibly larger numbers, maybe under closer control, keeping the data links working securely in a fight. That's a huge challenge, though.
So Air Force needs this huge, long-range penetrating fighter. But the Navy, they have similar threats over the ocean, but they couldn't use the same plane.
Right. And here's where physics really dictated strategy. The Air Force design points towards a very large aircraft. The source mentions maybe 110,000 pounds maximum takeoff weight.
What?
Think like a small airliner or 2 F-35Bs put together, huge fuel load, lots of internal weapons.
Okay, massive.
But the Navy has hard limits for carrier ops, around 85,000 pounds MTOW. So the Air Force's design was just physically too big and heavy for carrier decks. A common platform was basically impossible.
So separate paths, but even the Air Force path hit trouble, didn't it? That turbulence in 2024.
Oh, absolutely. A real crisis of affordability, as some called it. The initial vision for those CCAs, the really high-end, loyal wingman idea, that started to shift. The focus moved towards cheaper, maybe even expendable or tritable drones. And then senior leaders started questioning the cost of the main manned fighter itself.
Yeah, the article quotes Secretary Kendall back in June 2024 being really blunt about it. It's a very expensive platform, roughly 3 times the cost of an F-35. He said, ideally, I'd like to get it down to less than the price of an F-35. Given an F-35A is around $116 million. Well, that implies NGAD is looking like $300 million plus per plane. Ouch.
Exactly. And General Alvin, the Air Force chief, was echoing those worries. He talked about a likely very, very thin budget for FY26 and asked that really fundamental question. What does an effective Air Force look like in the future?
Which led to that pause in mid-2024. They actually stopped the source selection process to rethink the whole design. Affordability was the main driver, but also adapting to threats. DoD apparently estimated needing over $20 billion more just for R&D. And General Alvin warned, once we go through this one-way door, it's hard to pivot. They needed to be sure.
And the core reason for hitting the brakes? Cost. Pure and simple. The Air Force just couldn't see how to afford a $300 million fighter when its absolute top priorities were already locked in. Those are the B-21 Raider bomber and the Sentinel ICBM replacement. Sentinel's costs had nearly doubled, approaching $141 billion. That soaked up any spare cash. So the pressure to slash NGAD's cost became immense. That's when you started hearing ideas like the Digital Century series.
Right, the Digital Century series. What exactly does that concept involve? It sounds different.
It is. It's a radical departure. Instead of spending decades designing one perfect, super expensive plane meant to last 50 years, the idea is to use digital engineering and open architectures to design, build, and field new aircraft much faster, maybe smaller batches, updated continually, almost like software.
So you can adapt quicker.
Exactly. Adapt at the speed of software, as they say. Swap capabilities in and out as threats change. Avoid getting locked into technology that might be obsolete before it's even deployed widely. It's a response to both cost and the pace of change.
Makes sense. So this pressure affected the F-47's design thinking. Kendall suggested maybe if you offload capabilities to the CCAs, the manned jet could be smaller, cheaper. But the article also mentions operators were worried the original, maybe more capable design might still be needed. That it might not be the right airplane if it got watered down too much.
It's a classic tension.
Oh.
And it extended to who could even build it. Analyst Richard Abulafia had that really stark quote about the choice between Lockheed and Boeing. He questioned Lockheed's F-35 track record versus Boeing's recent production struggles. His quote was pretty brutal. Do you hand the monopoly to Lockheed, or do you hope that Boeing somehow could execute?
Wow. Yeah, that highlights the industrial base challenges, too. So despite all this, the consensus was still that something like NGAD was needed, just not at that original price tag. Which brings us back to Kendall punting the decision to the Trump administration. Keep options open.
Right. And the trigger to finally make that decision seems to have been those rumors around late December 2024, Mao Zedong's birthday, apparently about China potentially flying its own 6th-gen prototypes. That added real urgency.
Which also coincided with that brief, interesting spat involving Elon Musk, right? He was advising Trump and publicly called manned fighters obsolete on X.
Yeah, he posted, they will just get pilots killed in the age of drones. Kendall pushed back pretty firmly on that one. He said something like, I have a lot of respect for Elon Musk as an engineer, but he's not a warfighter. Kendall reckoned it would be decades before Musk's drone-only vision could happen. A real clash of perspectives there.
So fast forward again to March 2025. Trump makes the call. Boeing gets it. It's the F-47, and we're moving forward. Seems Musk view didn't carry the day there. And they released pictures, but deliberately blurred and distorted, keeping it very secret.
Highly classified, yes. But they did release some skeleton specifications. Planned fleet size, over 185 aircraft, same as the F-22 fleet it's replacing. Top speed over Mach 2. Stealth, described as Stealth plus A head, which implies a significant step beyond even the F-22 Stealth Plus and the big one. Combat radius stated as greater than 1,000 nautical miles. That's over 1,850 kilometers.
Okay, let's pause on that radius. 1,000 nautical miles plus. Compare that again. F-16 is maybe 400. F-22, F-35 are in the 590-670 range. F-15EX around 690.
Exactly. This is a huge leap, specifically designed to operate inside that predicted 1,000 nautical mile A280 bubble from 2030 onwards. For context, the joint Uk-Italy-Japan GCAP fighter is aiming for maybe 1,200, 1,600 NM range too. It shows where 6th gen requirements are heading.
But that raises questions about the CCAs again, doesn't it? The current candidates, the GAASI YFQ-42A and Anduril YFQ-44A, are listed with only a 700 nautical mile radius. Top speed classified. So
Right.
how do they keep up or operate effectively with an F-47 that's potentially going much further and faster deep inside that 1,000 NM zone? And the timelines for getting both operational, the article notes they seem unachievable to some analysts.
Those are very valid operational questions, absolutely. And then there was Lockheed Martin's reaction to losing the main contract. No protest, which was interesting. Instead, they came out offering a kind of supercharged 5th generation plus F-35 variant using tech developed for NG-80, but in an F-35 airframe. They're claiming it could offer, say, 80% of the F-47's capability, but at maybe half the cost, which leaves a big question hanging.
Is that a competitor to the F-47 or something to potentially supplement it, add numbers back into the equation?
Exactly. It plays right into that debate.
Yeah.
A small number of exquisite, very expensive platforms versus needing more affordable mass.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? I mean, this deep dive shows just how complex things are, huge strategic shifts, massive technical hurdles, and eye-watering costs. The F-47, it's a huge bet, a necessary one perhaps, but definitely a risk in this changing world.
It really highlights the fundamental trade-offs, doesn't it? That need for incredible capability and range, which drives up cost, versus the constant pressure for affordability and just having enough aircraft. And concepts like that Digital Century series, building systems designed to adapt quickly, update like software that seems crucial now, it's about managing costs and staying relevant.
Which leaves us with a big question to ponder. Given everything we've discussed, the F-47's capabilities, the cost, the evolving A280 threat, the CCA integration challenges, can a relatively small fleet of these incredibly advanced, expensive manned fighters, even with drones alongside them, truly guarantee the kind of air dominance the U.S. has relied on? Or will the sheer numbers matter argument eventually force a different path for future air power? What stands out to you in all this complexity? Thanks for joining us. We hope it gives you plenty to think about as you navigate our complex world.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel so you can get notified when we release a new video. Thank you for your support.